2007 Mercedes S65, not that pedestrian V8 model, but this is the halo car for the sedan lineup at Mercedes. It's twin turbo V12 engine making 600 horsepower stock. However, this one's been upgraded with a Eurocharge tune, which adds another 100 horsepower on top of that. And in this video, I'm going to give you a tour of the car. You know, for the longest time, I'd never understood the attraction to Mercedes until one day a coworker of mine tossed me the keys to her diesel sedan that she had. And, you know, I spent a month with that car and adored it. It was a couple years later, I ended up picking up another Mercedes. It was a wagon, it was a 300 TD. This, however, has been a bucket list car of mine for years and years now. I was originally looking at an E55. It was a supercharged V8 model. But for a little bit more money, and you know, a little bit is relative, obviously, you could step up to this, the top dog in the sedan lineup. There's a lot that makes the S65 different than the standard S-Class Mercedes, starting with probably the sexiest engine call-out ever put on a car. 19-inch wheels, 14-inch rotors, an aero kit on the rocker panel, massive quad exhaust pipes, AMG call-outs, a different rear bumper, different front bumper, and a lowered stance. Inside, it is all leather and Alcantara. Up top. Now, I think Alcantara is simply man-made suede. I think it's just a fancy way of saying man-made materials. There are a lot of buttons and switches, controls, all over the car. And the same with the back seat as well. The gauge is interesting in that the center speedometer here is a screen, while obviously you have your fuel and temperature gauge and tachometer, but this screen is configurable and changeable, which is interesting. It's pretty cool. This is the key for the car, and it's a proximity key. You just drop it down, and 1 foot on the brake, a tap on the button, and she comes to life. Also, what's interesting is you could pop off the little cover. You could also slide the key in for starting and stopping the car. In the center console, this top button here is your transmission selection, where you want to be in manual mode, sport, or comfort. This operates the headrest in the back seat. Also lower the headrest as well. This is a programmable button that you can preset to operate whatever function that you choose. On the other side, you have your display screen on and off button, your radio volume, mute button, telephone and nav, massaging seats, hazard of course, back button, radio and disc player. This is for your telephone when you need a keypad, and this is your control for your multimedia screen. In the center console, you have your Bluetooth connector and an emergency phone call to Mercedes. What's pretty cool about this armrest is that there's also a button on the other side, so both the driver and the passenger has full access to it. Above the center console, we have cup holders and an ashtray. Above that is your DVD player and CD player. And then we have all your HVAC controls up here. Rest is a recycler for the heat coming off the engine. So when you stop and park, you get out and you go to the store, you flip this button, and this will recycle hot air from the engine back into the cabin to keep the cabin warm for you, so when you return you have a more comfortable place to be. Classy radio, of course, and multimedia. Up top we have the height control for the pneumatic suspension, traction control, parking assist, and this changes the angle of the screen for the driver or the passenger or the back seat. And these knobs down here just change the brightness of the screen. There is more. On the door, we have memory seat controls, power locks, obviously, heated and cooled seats. I never tried them both at the same time. We may have to do that. Seat controls. Further down, we have your mirror controls. You have your front windows, back windows, but there's also shades on the back windows. So you push that, and the sunshades go up. You push the button down, the sunshades go down, and if you hold the button down, the windows go down as well. Underneath that is the lockout for the rear seat passengers and the trunk control. You can open and close the trunk using that button. Above the rear view mirror, we have the map lights, reading lights, SOS for emergency phone calls, the sunshade for the panoramic sunroof, sunglasses, and the controls to open the sunroof. So in case that's not enough, there's more in the back seat. So you have your sunshade and window controls on this door. You have a power reclining rear seat as well, heat and cooled also. Down below you have your climate control for the rear seat passengers. Both sides get a zone. The center armrest has its own set of controls as well. And L's for left, R's for right, and you have massaging seat functions in the back. Between the two panels on the sunroof, there is a mirror for both passengers. And an interesting feature on the passenger side door is a button that allows you to control the front seat. But the real fun of this car is the driving experience. So why don't we go for a quick drive? Now, I bought this car about 6 months ago. It had 89,000 miles on it. It has 92.5 now. I paid $25,000 for the car, and that included new wheels and new tires that it had installed on it right before I picked it up. It also had a new battery installed as well. Now, the car has two batteries. One is for all the accessories, and the second battery is strictly for starting the car. And so I had put a new battery in it, and I've done an oil change as well. Now, you think of an oil change, and it's like, yeah, what's the big deal, right? But this is 11.1 quarts of special synthetic. And so the price tag goes through the roof really quickly. And I think that's one of the drivers why these cars depreciate so quickly and so hard. Now, this car was something like 190,000 new, and I got it for, I don't know, 15, 18% of that, which is absurd considering the amount of car that you get for the money. Now, it's glitchy though, and that's one of the issues with this thing, and I think it's with all the Mercedes, right? Is that it has so much electronics and so many doodads and gizmos in it that if you don't drive the car routinely, well, you start getting these glitches. For instance, the driver's door lock. If I don't drive the car for a while, when you put it in drive, the locks automatically happen, but that door will go and it won't lock. And then you manually go over there and push it down. After driving the car for a while, it clears up and it works fine. The infotainment screen sometimes dims all the way down. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. You go in there and you twist the knob and you brighten it up again and it's fine. I had one problem with the pneumatic suspension. When I cleaned up and detailed the engine, I gently sprayed water on things, rinsing stuff off. Anyway, one of the electronic connections must have gotten wet, and it caused the pneumatic suspension just to go haywire for about 5 minutes. The front left would up and down and all over the place. I thought it was East LA with all the action going on, and it happened quick. It's not like a slow moving up, slow down, not at all. It's instant, boom, 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 boom. All four wheels are going all different directions. It was a pretty wild ride. It was a lot of fun too. And remember earlier I said the speedometer is a screen that's multifunctional? Well, there's a switch over here, right by the headlight switch, and if you press that switch, and if it's dark enough, let's see if it, yep, all right. So we have infrared camera, which is pretty cool. Speedometer down here, and of course the turn signals still function through the screen. And when that screen is on, I find myself watching the screen way more than I watch the road, and got to be careful about that. I think the magnification is about 2 times on the screen, so you see twice as far on the screen than you do through the windshield. So despite all that, the real fun of this car is the 700 horsepower, and let me show you what it can do. The power is absolutely seamless, unstoppable. There's no limit to it. It just keeps going and going and going. When you hit 80, it wants to go to 100. And when you hit 100, it wants to go to 150. It just wants to keep going. It's limited to 158. I don't know if the top speed has been eliminated. The top speed limiter has been eliminated with this, with the tune. It doesn't matter. I'm not going that fast, but it doesn't want to stop. There's no limits to this car and this engine. I swear it just wants to go. The real problem though is traction. It's just not enough. It needs to be all-wheel drive, and the newer models are. But this is traction limited with 700 port. I mean, just what you expect, right? With that much power. But the key is smoothness. I mean, it's like a jet. It's just a sheer pow, and you feel the G-forces. You feel all your organs get moved around in your body, and you get pushed back into the seat, and you're just hanging on. Tell you what, this thing is such a blast to drive. It's so much fun. However, I've yet to do a full throttle run with it. With 700 horsepower, even at 40 miles per hour, when you smash on the throttle, it just spins the tires. So I always have traction control on. And I mean, I'm still experimenting and learning with it too. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.